It was Christmas Eve, the kind that felt like a warm memory as it was happening. My fiancé, Mason, and I had flown in from Seattle to spend the holidays with my family in Vermont. Snow clung to the tree branches. Fairy lights twinkled in every window, and the scent of cinnamon and cloves lingered to the house like a soft whisper of nostalgia. Mason had proposed 6 months earlier, and this was the first holiday he would spend with my entire family. Mom, Dad, my younger brother Caleb, and our golden retriever, Molly. Everything felt perfect. Too perfect, I would later realize. That night, after dinner and hot cocoa, my mom pulled out the old photo albums, the kind she always brought out on holidays. Worn leather covers, plastic sheets over fading photos, and pages that smelled like time. Mason sat beside me on the rug in front of the fireplace, and I could feel the warmth of his leg pressed against mine. This, my mom said, pointing to a photo, was Christmas '95. You were just 3, sweetheart. I giggled, recognizing myself in a red velvet dress with a lopsided bow. Wow, I was a mess. But Mason didn't laugh. He leaned in, squinting at the photo. His face changed. His jaw tensed, lips parted slightly, and color drained from his cheeks. Are you okay? I whispered, nudging him. He didn't answer. He stared harder, flipping the plastic sleeve gently, scanning the photo beside it, then the next one. Then, very softly, almost like he wasn't talking to me, he whispered, Don't you see it? What? I frowned, leaning in. See what? He turned the page again, then froze, pointing to a group photo taken in our backyard. My mom and dad stood on the left, a younger me in my father's arms. Next to us was our old neighbor, Diane, holding her son, Jason. I remember Jason vaguely, a quiet boy with sandy hair and deep blue eyes. He and his mother moved away when I was 7. Mason's finger hovered above the boy's face. That's me, he said, barely breathing. That's me when I was 4. My blood ran cold. What do you mean, that's you? He pulled out his phone, opened his photos, and tapped on an old scanned image of him as a child. Same hair, same eyes, same soft dimple on the right cheek. My mom had gone quiet too. She leaned over slowly, as if time had suddenly thickened. Her smile had faded. Mom, I said, do you remember this boy? She hesitated. Of course. That's Jason, Diane's son. They lived down the road for a few years before moving to Oregon. Why? Mason shook his head. My mom's name is Diane. Diane Reynolds. We lived in Vermont until I was 5. Then we moved to Oregon after she split with my father. She never talked about Vermont much. Everything stopped. The air seemed to crackle around us. Wait, I said slowly. Are you saying you're Jason? He nodded. I think so. Mom sat down, suddenly pale. Her hands trembled as she turned the album back a few pages, scanning through the older pictures. I never put together, she murmured. It was so long ago, and your last name changed when your mom remarried. I looked at Mason, my stomach beginning to twist. Mom, I said, is there something you're not telling us? She looked at me, eyes wide, tearful, panicked. And then she said the words that shattered the world I thought I knew. Diane and your father had an affair. What? I breathed. It only lasted a few months. But then she got pregnant. No one knew at the time if it was your father's or her husband's. But shortly after Jason was born, Diane left her husband and moved. We never saw her again. I stared at Mason, whose face had gone completely pale. I stood up. Are you saying there's a chance Mason, my fiancé, is my half-brother? No one said anything. Not my mom, who was crying. Not Mason, whose breath was shallow. Not even my dad, who had quietly walked in from the kitchen, frozen by the question he probably never wanted to face. The next few days were a blur. DNA tests, silent meals, awkward distance between Mason and me as we tried to figure out what this all meant. He called his mom. She broke down immediately and confessed the truth. Mason never knew who his real father was. She never thought he'd return to Vermont, let alone fall in love there. 2 weeks later, the test confirmed it. We were siblings. Half-siblings. The world spun. Our engagement was over Of course. We tried to stay in touch as friends, as something that used to be. But how do you mourn a love that turned out to be forbidden? We both went to therapy. A lot of it. He moved back to Oregon. I stayed in Vermont for a while. Tried to rebuild the idea of family and identity that had suddenly fallen apart. My father apologized every night, racked with guilt. My mother tried to hold the family together, but things would never quite be the same. It's been a year since that Christmas. Mason and I don't speak much anymore, just the occasional birthday text or email. He's dating someone now, someone unrelated, someone safe. As for me, I'm still learning how to trust the ground beneath my feet again. But every Christmas, when my mom reaches for the old photo albums, I gently stop her. Some pictures, once revealed, change everything, and some truths are better left in the past. 1 year later, they say time heals all wounds. But I've learned that time only buries them deeper, like snow covering a frozen lake, deceptively calm, waiting to crack. It's been a year since that night. A year since my life was split in half, before the photo album and after. I moved to New York, far from Vermont, far from the whispers, the pitying looks, the questions no one dared to ask out loud. Therapy helped, but so did silence. I stopped dating. How do you open your heart again when it once bloomed for someone who turned out to be your blood? Then, last week, I got a letter. Handwritten. No return address. The handwriting was familiar. Emily, I don't know if I should write this, but I need you to know what I've learned. My mother lied to me about everything. She confessed last month, on her deathbed, that my biological father was not your father, but his brother, your Uncle Thomas, the one who died years ago in that car accident. The DNA test matched us because our fathers were twins, identical twins, genetically indistinguishable. We aren't siblings. We never were. She said she kept a secret to avoid dragging your family into more drama. She thought it wouldn't matter. But it does, because you mattered. You still do. I don't expect anything from this. I just thought you deserved to know the truth, the real truth at last. Mason, I read it 3 times. Then I just sat there, shaking, unable to breathe. All that pain, that heartbreak, the endless nights of guilt, confusion, and silence, and it was built on a lie. We weren't siblings. We weren't doomed. We could have been just 2 people in love. But love doesn't wait forever. I folded the letter carefully and slid it back into the envelope. I didn't cry. Not at first. I just stared at the snow falling outside my New York apartment window. We lost everything because of a secret that could have been cleared with honesty, one that cost us a future we never even got to explore. But now, maybe the story isn't over. I picked up my phone, staring at his name in my contacts. I hadn't touched it in almost a year. And then I called. The line rang once, twice, and then, Emily, his voice, warm, stunned, still full of something unspoken.